I'm very unique. Just ask me.
He doesn't eat seafood, McMullen. Do you believe that? The guy doesn't eat seafood.
Who doesn't eat seafood?
Thompson doesn't eat. I said, dude, all you can eat crabs. You in? Well, I don't eat crabs. I don't eat any seafood. Doesn't eat any seafood, nothing.
Pete, what is wrong with you?
Absolutely nothing.
Crab is my favorite food on the planet. Crab would be number one, then I would go chicken.
How about that?
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I'm incredulous.
Okay, so now which one are you going to use the line first? Oh, it tastes just like chicken. No, it doesn't.
No.
Whenever somebody says it tastes like chicken, that's not true.
It doesn't taste like chicken. It tastes like crab.
Crab doesn't taste. Crab is much better than chicken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crab I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Here, and the speechless part, the speechless part, McMullen, is this. He says, well, I tried it once when I was a kid, like 40 years ago, and he has refused to try it again.
And then he gave it up. Come on, jump in the pool, Pete. Try it again.
Yeah,
I guarantee.
Try it again. All right, sports bet. Oh, he doesn't like when you do that. Don't tell me. I know you're going to like it.
No,
I know you're going to like it.
He can say it on the air. That's fine.
But just when
it's
you're
sitting across from me and you take a forkful of your own food and go, here, try this. That's where my nerves get frayed because I know I don't like it.
You know wrong.
I agree. A lot of people, and there's a great new Geico commercial. I'll give them a free plug where, when people say, oh, this tastes awful, and they want you to taste it. I never understood that.
Well, if you told me it tastes awful, then I don't want to taste it.
So which raccoon am I?
If you told me it tastes good and I want to try it, I'll give it a try. Hey, I have no problem saying, expanding my horizons and trying something new. If I don't like it, I don't like it. At least I tried it and said, oh, okay, I don't like it. Pete Thompson refuses to do that. He's lied like 4 times today, John. Lied 4 times.
That's not true.
4 times. And think of all the people on the Bering Sea losing their life to get you crab, and you're not even going to taste it.
I've watched that show, actually. My girlfriend's son watches those shows, Deadliest Catch. He loves it. He's a big part of it. Well, I welcome everybody that enjoys seafood. I will gladly have a beverage and a steak while you eat your seafood. That's more for you.
We're not only going crab, we're going entire seafood. You're not going to.
Yeah, no seafood at all.
Nice tilapia. That's rock solid. The Eagles have a great spread for us at lunch. There's always a salmon, tilapia, something. Yeah. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
It's preposterous. It really is, John. All right. Eagles and Seahawks this weekend, and a lot of injury news, a lot of notes from today's NovaCare Center. Started off with Nolan Carroll back at practice today.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is Zach Ertz, though, because I'm a little concerned that he popped up. Wednesday, he's able to practice in a limited fashion. Now the hamstring flares up. So there's some good and there's some bad. Jordan was back at practice, Jordan Matthews. And overall, by the way, if you look around the league, this team is relatively healthy when you look at how banged up certain teams are around the league. So I don't think you can, pick out a player or two and say it's all that much of a concern because everybody is banged up this time of year, and you just got to get through it. But we've seen with the struggles at the wide receiver position, I find that a little alarming, especially when you're going in against Seattle in that impressive defensive backfield. And we'll see how it shakes out.
John, I was surprised to see this. Pro Football Focus ranked the corners, and out of 116 qualifiers, Nolan Carroll, 14th from the bottom. Dead last is Jalen Mills. Now, Jim Schwartz today essentially said, hey, Jalen Mills is our shutdown guy. He's following Julio Jones all over the field.
Yeah. Which is why, and Jim actually mentioned Pro Football Focus today. He does it quite on more than one occasion, and he'll say he'll leave it up to them to rate it. And I've been mentioning that for weeks. Jalen is not rated well, but I'll tell you what, he competes, and I think that's what Jim Schwartz likes. And he's got that mentality, and it's great for a rookie, where if he does get beat, he doesn't let it bother him, and he's right back there competing. And we've seen it time and time again with corners who struggle at times and they kind of lose their confidence and they get even worse. I haven't seen that from him. So I think the rating is a little bit unfair. I think as a whole, let's be honest, the Eagles cornerbacks aren't very good, and they do give up volume, and that's the problem. You'll see Julio Jones catch whatever he was. I think he was 10 for 135 or something in that range. You know, that's a lot. And he dropped 2 others, so it would have been even better. So they've given up some volume, but this has been, by and large, a bend but don't break defense. And I think the fact that the safeties, and that's what Jim mentioned today, Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod, they've been so good that they at times can mask some of the deficiencies at corner. And there's no question there's some deficiencies. Because as much as I like Jalen's wherewithal and his mental preparation and his mental toughness, you know, if that's your shutdown corner, you have issues.
Yeah, and one thing, I thought something interesting Schwartz brought up today when he was asked about the deficiencies of the Seahawks tackles, and if that was, you know, going to have him draw up a similar game plan to the Minnesota game. And, you know, I thought he addressed that kind of was interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, first, Jim doesn't like to give away at all what he's planning on doing. And so that, you know, he tends to shut things down as far as game plan and that to begin with. But the last thing you want is to allow Darrell Bevel, the offensive coordinator in Seattle, Pete Carroll, to know what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. So that's number one. But number two, I think it's a lot different because Sam Bradford is the Vikings quarterback, and you know where Sam Bradford's going to be. So I think Jim felt very, very comfortable with some of those zone blitzes that he threw at Sam, because you know Sam's not going to break contain and get out of the pocket and hurt you in that nature. If you try to do the same thing against Sam Bradford with Russell Wilson, you're going to get killed. Because if that blitz, if you fail to wrap up or you do anything and you let him break contain, well then, you know, it's Katie bar the door. So
yeah,
I think.
Go ahead, John.
So I think you have to be very wary of just because they have that similarity and the fact that both teams are struggling mightily at the offensive tackle position. They're not similar in other ways. So you can't just assume he's going to have a carbon copy game plan.
Yeah, Schwartz was asked like multiple times about Russell Wilson, his height, and how that affects him. And basically he came back to, look, guys, the game plan, everybody's tried to put one together for this guy. He's successful. He's good. We got to come to grips with this guy's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, he can do it all. And that's the problem. Usually when you have these dual threat type quarterbacks, maybe they're not that good from the pocket. Maybe they don't have the greatest accuracy in the world as far as throwing the football. Russell's really good. You know, I think there's no question the strength of his game is his movement skills and his ability to extend plays and do things of that nature. But we've seen it time and time again over the years, and it keeps improving. And it's improved dramatically from his rookie season in 2012 to right now. He can kill you from the pocket, and he's become a very accurate passer. So this is one of the best 5 quarterbacks in football. He's difficult to deal with, and now that he's healthier than he has been, early this season he was dealing with a host of injuries. He had the ankle problem. He sprained his knee. He had a chest problem. And now if you saw some of those pictures where he had the 2 braces on his legs, now they're off. And now he's moving a little bit better, and that's even more of a concern.
John, you mentioned Zach Ertz a moment ago. If he can't go, what does the Eagles' offense look like without him?
Yikes.
Yikes is right this week. I mean, we always talk about Zach, and he's not performing up to where we all think he should be, and he's not getting the number of catches. he should be. And everyone's waiting for that breakout, and occasionally the game happens, but it doesn't happen consistently. That said, just for this particular week, I thought he was more important than ever because you kind of know. I mean, these Eagle receivers are not going to get open. And this against this defensive backfield, these corners, in that environment, they can't do anything against the Atlanta Falcons without Desmond Trufant on the field and Robert Alford being their only real stud corner. How the heck are they going to get open and get separation against this group? So I thought Zach Ertz, along with Darren Sproles out of the backfield, was going to be very, very important to the passing game, and he still might be out there. There's, just because you're giving a guy like that sort of a day off of practice to sort of tone down, maybe a little aggravation isn't the worst thing in the world, but they certainly need him this weekend.
I have a stat in front of me, John, that says that the Seattle Seahawks they've caused the most false start penalties for opposing teams since 2005. 92 games, 150 penalties. That's an average of 1.63 by the opponents per game. You think back to that Redskins game when the Eagles didn't handle a loud crowd so well. Do they have any chance?
Or their own home crowd last week.
So
maybe Zach Ertz not playing will be good.
They had 4 or 5 at Lincoln Financial Field. Yeah, I mean, if you've never been there, that stadium is it's by far the loudest outdoor stadium. They set a Guinness Book of World Records. It's built so sort of the sound funnels down instead of up and out. So it's kind of an architectural wonder in that way. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to deal with. And then on top of it, the noise is you have a really good defensive front. Now, the Eagles are getting a real big break, and then Michael Bennett's not ready to return yet, and that's their best defensive lineman. So that is a huge break because if you have not only that noise, but then all of a sudden you got Michael Bennett lined up against you. You're trying to get started earlier, and that's where those false starts come from. You still have Cliff Averill to deal with. He's a heck of an edge pass rusher. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to get a number of false starts, and they're going to have to overcome them at some point to get a win. It's going to be tough. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, this is a tough place to play, no question about it. Amani Toomer yesterday said basically go to the loudest rock concert, your ears are ringing. It's no joke. He said basically you can't even hear the guy who's standing directly next to you. You got to basically read lips out in this place, and that's from a wide receiver standpoint, John. So you talk about a wide receiver way out there can't hear. Eagles wide receivers are bad enough when it's dead silent. They got to be a non-factor in this particular game. But if the Eagles want to have a shot, I thought Frank Reich today basically, admitted, yeah, we're going to have to keep trying to run the ball against them. We got to try to do it. We have to try to go after them. We can't say, look, they stopped the run, so we can't do it. I thought that was at least encouraging.
Yeah, and I think he understands that. In a similar defensive team from last week, obviously Dan Quinn was the Seahawks defensive coordinator before he took over in Atlanta. So he's trying to implement it's predominantly cover 3. So there's a lot of zone, although I think the Seahawks will probably play more man-to-man, more press-man, at least before they sort of bail out. Because, it doesn't matter, Jordan Matthews, Nelson Aguilar, Bryce Tregg. I can't picture any of them. Certainly Dorial Green-Beckham getting open against Richard Sherman, and Deshaun Shedd's not bad either. So I don't think it's a game we're expecting the Eagles receivers to break out. So offensively, you got to run the football. It's as simple as that. And even if it's not successful, and I don't expect it to be as successful as it was against Atlanta, you have to do it sort of to keep the time of possession similar to they did against the Seahawks, against the Falcons, keep the Seahawks offense off the field. And even if it's 3 yards a carry, 3.5 yards a carry. Guess what? That means a first down. So even if it's ugly, you have to keep doing it. And I think Frank Reich understands that.
John, I'm pretty sure Pete Carroll was asked on the conference call, and Jim Schwartz might have been asked as well, who is the better defense, Seattle or Philadelphia? Would you like to weigh in?
Well, statistically, the Eagles are. I know everybody laughed at that. I think the Eagles are 6th in the league, and the Seahawks are 9th. But we talk about the Seahawks. The Seahawks have been doing it forever, and that's the issue with the Seahawks. They've been so good for so long, and the Eagles have just sort of jumped up this year under Jim Schwartz. And a lot of guys, Malcolm Jenkins said it again this week. He said, we think we have as good a defense as anyone. Jordan Hicks intimated the same thing. Fletcher Cox, same thing. They have a lot of confidence in what they do defensively, and it has been a very, very good defense. But I think longevity is a part of it. And I think the Seahawks defense obviously has been doing it for a longer period of time. They have the big names. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas are not only Pro Bowl level players, they're all pro level players. Bobby Wagner as well at linebacker. I mentioned Michael Bennett. That's a big break because he's not going to be there. But they have difference makers at every single level. And playing at home, I might give you a different answer if it was at Lincoln Financial Field. But playing at home, you have to give the edge to the Seahawks, even defensively.
John, I want to get into some NFL topics here with you at JF McMullen on Twitter. You can check out his national NFL coverage there, John. And, of course, we talked about Romo yesterday. He's kind of, back in the news today because the Cowboys are now claiming that Romo's going to be back there next year. Now, we spent yesterday's conversation kind of talking about where he would fit. I saw some Vegas odds out about where he'll play next year, 2-1 that he would be back in Dallas next year. So is Dallas and the Cowboys are saying it? Are you buying that Romo is destined to be the Cowboys' backup for the next couple of years?
No, I'm not buying it. They want to say that. They're obviously going to say it because they want to be able to trade something and spin them off and get something for them. I mean, we talked about it, as you mentioned, on yesterday's show. You can't have a starting quarterback making $600,000 and a backup making $23 million or whatever. I don't have Tony's numbers in front of me, but he's well over $20 million next year. It's not going to work for a number of reasons. Number one, Dak is going to be knocking on people's doors earlier than he normally would be. I mean, anytime you outperform your rookie contract, generally, as I said, you're going to be in there trying to renegotiate by year 3. If they try to bring Tony Romo back at $20 million plus, and Dak Prescott is the starting quarterback, he's going to be knocking on the door even earlier. And by the way, I don't blame him. So there's a financial part of this that people also have to understand. I think from the Cowboys' perspective, if they're even entertaining it, it's because they have doubts about Dak Prescott long term. And they want to have a safety net and say, you know what, maybe this is catching lightning in a bottle. Maybe this guy isn't the long-term answer, but I don't believe that to be the case. He's shown nothing to indicate that he's not a very good prospect and that he's not going to be the next quarterback for this team for the next 5 to 10 years at least. So I think right now that's lip service to try to do everything you can to keep the trade value up. And we all know how many teams in this league need a quarterback. But then other factors into that. You're going to have to renegotiate. You're going to have to look for a new contract in a new organization. And the more Tony is willing to do as far as reworking his deal, the easier it will be for the Cowboys to get something of value in return.
All right, John, 26 Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalists. Terrell Owens, one of them. Brian Dawkins, one of them. Some other very high-profile names on this list, but no Donovan McNabb. So Owens and Dawkins on the list, no McNabb on the list. What surprises you more?
Neither surprise. I mean, they should be semifinalists. There's no question about it. Both of them are. Theo to me is a no-brainer Hall of Famer. He'll be in there at some point. There's some issues, the off-the-field issues, and the fact that he sort of went from city to city because of his attitude, because of his off-field antics. That turns off some of the voters, and he might have to wait a little bit longer than his talent would indicate, but he'll eventually be in there. Brian Dawkins, I know everybody in Philadelphia thinks he's a no doubt about it Hall of Famer, and he's certainly in the conversation, but you have to realize there aren't a lot of safeties in the Hall of Fame. So these voters have looked at that position and said it's not as valuable as others. I don't personally agree with that, but I always point, for old school people, for instance, Paul Krause, who is still the all-time interception leader in this league. It took him, I think, 22 years to get in the Hall of Fame. That's how difficult it is for safeties to get in the Hall of Fame. So while I think Brian is a borderline player, I think it's going to take a while before he gets in, if he does get in.
All right, they're the 26, or two of the 26. Morton Anderson, Steve Atwater, Tony Vaselli, Isaac Bruce, Roger Craig, Terrell Davis.
Steve Atwater,
just some of the
way,
names.
Mike. Steve Atwater, perfect example. Tremendous. Anyone who remembers Steve Atwater?
Sure.
Tremendous all-pro level safety. Still trying to get in.
Ty Law, Darren Woodson.
Safety's in.
John Lynch, another one. So there's some of the names. Carl Mecklenburg from
another former Bronco.
Broncos days, the Elway days. You got Torrey Holt, Kurt Warner over McNabb on that list. So there you go. McNabb did not make the semifinalists. We'll have to see if he gets back someday. All right, John McMullen tomorrow will have his pick for the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, for more coverage of Eagles Seahawks, go to 97.3ESPN.com. Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.